There we go. Oh.
Good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to Underground Cinema. And as you know, for the month of October, we've been interviewing as many nominees for the 13th Underground Cinema Awards, which take place this Saturday night in the magnificent Royal Hotel in Gerrry, County Dublin. So I'm delighted to say that I've got two guests for us this morning. I've got Gerry Cannon and I've got Tommy Creagh. And we're here to just chat about Tommy's brilliant short film, Acheron. Did I pronounce it right, Tommy?
I think so, yeah, Acheron. Yeah, I mean, some people pronounce it Acheron. I think it's one of those words that's so old that no one really even knows how to pronounce it anyway. So just go with it.
Yeah, I was sort of reading up on the on the name. It's a mythic name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was one of the rivers in Greek mythology that was like the last river before you got to the land of the dead. So it's like you kind of look out over the Acheron from the land of the living into the land of the dead. And it was kind of an idea that I had late to kind of change the name because of the river that was playing such an important part in it. And there was this kind of theme of grief and the river. So I thought, given the characters' hang-ups on Greek mythology, I thought it was kind of a fitting name. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the film, Tommy?
So it was basically a passion project. We shot it during a lapse of lockdown in 2020, and we were all we'd been stuck indoors too long, and everyone just wanted to do something. So there was very little money. It was just all of us. We just wanted to get back and be doing something creative again. I wrote the script for Gerry and Killian. And I went to the location, the river at Swords, and I kind of just figured out a script based on that location because I liked it as well. So I kind of like reverse engineered it. So I had the location and the actors that I wanted to write something for, and then I got the script together from that, which is often kind of how I like to work because I find that it's I don't know, it's more fun or something. You get to a more interesting place. And everyone was just really great and just put like 100, I don't want to say 110%, but because I know that's a bit of a crass thing to say, but it did feel like that. Everyone really put their heart and soul into it, which is why I think it's, it works as a project, especially these guys here, Gerry and Killian, were really, really fantastic to work with and really, really are the reason why the film is what it is, really.
Yeah. This film, explores the relationship, the father-son relationship, and this could be any family, to be honest with you, because Gerry reminded me of my own father, in certain to a certain extent, especially with the line, go out there and get a job. I'm paraphrasing, but you know what I mean, Gerry. And I just, and I loved and adored my father. He was great, but there were times when I probably drove him mad and my mother, where you especially when you're an artist and you're not in a real job, Gerry. You know what I mean? You want to be an actor. That's not a real job. You get what I'm talking about. So I can remember those conversations, with my parents. And as soon as I heard it at the very, it's very close to the start of the film, I related to it straight away, and I'm sure an awful lot of other people related to it straight away. There's a brilliant chemistry, Gerry, between yourself and Killian. It was fantastic. You worked really well together. How was your experience, with Killian throughout the shoot?
Excellent. But just to go back to your first observation, I was channeling a bit of my own father in that role, because like that again, I remember when I first started going to a drama school. It was Brendan Smith Theatre Academy in Dublin. This is early 80s, the only place there was. The Gaiety School just opened up a little bit after that. But I remember we were doing the student production and we put it on up in the John Clare Theatre. It was a farce. It was called My Wife's Family. I had the lead role, basically, male one. And I remember a few days afterwards, my father said to me, "You weren't in much use." And I was like, "Huh?" Kind of a bit shocked. But anyway, I was still in my early 20s, a bit innocent. And my mother kind of explained to me, probably a few years later, he just didn't want you to give up your good job. So he didn't want me getting notions about being an actor, which is probably a wait until 2016 before I was in my first short film. But anyway, going back to the Cillian thing, the beauty of this whole project was that I met Tommy in 2019 down at the Fast and Film Festival. And then the following year, earlier that year, he contacted me and he said he had this idea. He wanted to have, do a double-handed short, and it was going to be sort of driven by the two actors, the dialogue. He'd already decided that Cillian, who I hadn't met, was going to play his son because he admired Cillian's work. And he said, "I think you're good as the father." So from the very beginning, we were back and forth doing readings every few weeks. Cillian in particular would, a lot of input into how he felt the script was. Tommy would go, make a few changes, etc. And there was several back and forth readings plus edits that happened, online, as in reading to each other. So the unique thing for this as a short film is that from an actor's point of view, we got a lot of rehearsal. We went out then to where Tommy was staying in Dublin at the time, out to his flat apartment, and we did the internal scenes, which are very small parts of the whole thing. And then Tommy had already found the location, so I, made sure that we all went there, as in myself, Cillian, Tommy, plus Connor Tobin, who's the DOP, because there's about probably 4 or 5 scenes. I think one of them didn't make it into the final cut, that take place in that Broadmeadow estuary, which is basically from the sea at Malahide up to the motorway at Swords. And I kind of knew just from previous filmmaking, if we didn't actually walk this out, we'd run out of time. And it was a glorious day. It was a lovely day in September. The sun was shining, and we literally got the last bit of it in as the sun was setting, and we could physically be where we are in that beach without being cut off by the tide. So that getting to work with Cillian and that chemistry, it certainly helped with the rehearsal. I think was probably the major impetus there, because you can work with other actors and it's really only if you're nearly finished and you're thinking, "Oh, you should have done that," or you're just getting used to working with each other if you haven't worked together before.
Yeah.
She really did get cut off by the tide, Gerry. Do you remember?
Yeah, we did actually have to wait for a bit of it to move out, so we could.
Oh, we had to wade through it. We were up to our ankles.
That's right. We were rolling up our jeans and wading through the water.
So that's the kind of commitment you're looking for.
So, Gerry, I've mentioned this to a lot of actors, while we've been doing these interviews, with regard to the approach towards the film, especially during COVID, because, for 2 years to lock up artists, for 2 years it's very difficult, So what you had to do there is, you're saying that you rehearsed a lot via Zoom, and if you did do that, how did you find that experience?
It was probably okay initially. Well, a bit weird in the sense that because I hadn't met Cillian before, and he'd be kind of in a dark corner in his bedroom sort of thing, and kind of thinking, I wonder what this fella's really like, There's definitely that human connection is missing. But having said that, because we met several times, we kind of got to know him. I said, okay, he's, Cillian, and, this is not meant in a negative way, but he's quite an intense character. Like, he's absolutely focused on what he's doing when he's doing it. Like, I was probably just a bit more casual with the read, but he was absolutely and utterly committed to it. But then that comes through in his performance as well. So, he is the disgruntled son of a playwright who's had a bit of success. It's not working out for him. And his father's telling him, one shift a week is not working, which I kind of thought was funny when I saw Tommy had posted up from when he was in Madrid recently, where the film was being screened, and there's a shot of Cillian kind of looking like this at me, but the line is obviously mine, and underneath it says "Un día de semana," blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Oh, I know that line." It's kind of funny when you see a line of your dialogue in a different language, But
Yeah.
when Tommy, I think, said this first, we hadn't gone into COVID, but suddenly we were into COVID, and like that year in particular, that was the only short film I did in 2020. I think it was like June in 2020 that year was the first day I did a voiceover job in all that year, because I remember going into egg post production in town, which I actually have to go into this afternoon. But like, it was all this thing, like there was 8 people involved in the job, and we had to go like in maybe 2 at a time, and we had the masks and the whole thing. But yeah, I think it was more after that, to be quite honest with you, that I found the Zoom thing just got so tedious. It was probably a bit of a novelty when myself, Killian, and Tommy were doing the first bits.
Yeah, you know, you're right. It is a bit of a novelty at the start, but you know, you do really need the other actor there to be beside you. You know, to get a real feel for the characters. So, it's just interesting. You were just talking about, like, because essentially this is a two-hander, and your background is theatre, like my background, Gerry. We must be close to the same age, Gerry. I started in '85, and I was in the John Player Theatre as well. We go back a long way.
When it was dangerous.
Yeah. So when you have a theatrical actor, I always feel that they can delve very deep into the characters. And so my question is to Tommy, you had your script. When you have essentially a two-hander, it does happen with two-handers. Did you explore the script? You know, during rehearsal, did you improvise? Did you was there much change from the script from the time you had presented it to Gerry to the finished product on the screen?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot because, as Gerry said, I wanted to get the script out to them quite early, so that we could all kind of, because it was this very intimate piece, so that we could all kind of work on it together, slightly workshop it. And I also wanted to make it quite quickly, because I kind of knew that we didn't have long due to the COVID. Like, at the day that we shot it, I think was the last day before another lockdown. It was in September. It was like literally on the eve of that. So we couldn't have done much. We couldn't have rehearsed any more than we did. So, and these guys were really, really responsive, and especially Killian, who is basically an uncredited script editor, I think. He would refuse the credit. I said to him, because he did a lot of work on the script, notes and feedback and suggestions. But what that meant was, and Gerry was the same, chipping in with a few really nice changes. I remember one that it was I think the line in was that it's the bank holiday weekend, but Gerry was like, maybe it's the bank holiday. And I was like, yeah, that's good. So just little things like that. I think that what that meant was that it really belonged to all of us, and we all felt like, it was kind of our baby in a way. But yeah, it definitely changed a lot. And to talk about the Zoom process, I'd say it's good as long as you're in the kind of script read through and script development stages. But I think that when it actually gets to proper rehearsals, you need to be there. So I think that it was really great that we had all those Zoom sessions to kind of develop the characters, develop the relationship, develop the script. So then I think the real work was really done when we got into a room together, and especially when we went out onto the estuary, which was something I'd never dreamed of doing, was dragging these guys out onto the estuary just for rehearsals, but they actually suggested it. So yeah, it was. I think we were very lucky in that sense that we had that kind of commitment and that kind of the kind of time that we had as well. We shot it in 2 days. One day was indoors and the other day was outdoors. So it was very tight, and it changed a lot as well in that in the script it said the description was it's a gloomy Dublin summer's day. And so I thought we were shooting it in late September, and I thought that's money in the bank. We don't need to worry about that. And I think it was the hottest day of the year, wasn't it, Gerry? It was like 30
wasn't
degrees.
far off. It was like one of the best summer days you could get.
Not a cloud in the sky, broad sunshine. They were all dressed up in their coats sweating probably. And what that actually meant is in the end, we actually had, that was why we changed it to black and white, because it got back to that atmosphere that was in the script. So the black and white and the 4:3 that makes it look very old cinema-y, it wasn't actually the plan. We shot it in 4:3 to make it kind of claustrophobic, kind of box these characters into their face. And then the black and white was kind of get back to the atmosphere of the script, which was this gloomy Dublin summer's day. And it was just a really happy accident. And when I saw it and it had that feeling of like almost like an Antonioni film or something like that, I was just like, that's perfect, you know. And I didn't actually want to see it in colour. Once I'd seen it in black and white, I didn't actually even see the film in colour because I just thought that's it, you know. So there was a lot of happy accidents involved, as there are in most productions that, you know, that tend to turn out all right. You have the luck of the gods on your side, you know. It feels that way sometimes.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, you know, the reason behind black and white, and I think it works really well. I think black and white looks really well, especially the scenes, you know, by the water. There's something really great with black and white by the water. The reflection in the water. The shots are very crisp and clear as well. Your DOP did a really good job on that. Sorry, and I didn't catch his name. Your DOP.
Connor Tobin, yeah, did a fantastic job.
Connor,
he was similarly involved in all the stages, came out to the estuary with us, and kind of we had everything kind of worked out framing wise beforehand. And yeah, he did a brilliant job. And yeah, we kind of shot it as I said, we didn't shoot it in, you know, planned for black and white, so we wanted it to be kind of pristine and beautiful. But when it came into the color grades, we actually decided to keep that kind of pristineness, not to try to make it look like a pastiche and make it kind of grainy or, you know, overly dark. So it actually, like, you know, I think it kind of has its own thing because it has this feeling of old cinema, but it's also really nice digitally, like, shot beautifully, you know, framed by Connor, who, yeah, he's fantastic. He's got a great mind.
Because
yeah.
you can get black and white wrong. You know, I've seen an awful lot of shorts. You know, sometimes you get people shooting in black and white for the sake of shooting in black and white because they think it's cool. You know, this one I thought worked really, really well. Some of the silhouettes are lovely in it. You know, the use of the sun. I was wondering, was it a sunny day? Because it was quite sunny, you've got some beautiful silhouettes that worked really well. Your running time is really good as well because it's bang on the money. So a good short as anything, you know, for the festival circuit is around the, you know, anything from 10 minutes to around 18 minutes is sort of acceptable. I think you're around the 13-minute mark. So it's a good running time as well. It's not too long, it's not too short. It gets to the point. And as I said, I was able to relate to it immediately. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure everybody in the audience has heard those lines from their father at some stage in their life.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And I've had people come up to me and say, like, how do you know what's going on in my kitchen? You know, like, so it definitely has that resonance. And I kind of knew it would, because it was actually based off a kind of argument that me and my father actually had when we were living together. And there's that thing as well of you know, a lot of my friends moving back in with their parents in Dublin, which I think, you know, is something kind of sad. And this idea of people having to live together well into their 30s and the tensions that arise from that. And I find family drama just really fascinating in those relationships because there's so much love and then there's so much kind of bitterness and complex, and you can be 1 minute screaming at each other and saying the most horrible things imaginable, and then the next minute, you know, everything's normal again and you sat around the table. So I find those relationships really fascinating, and they were kind of that was where the Greek mythology element came into it. Because obviously Greek mythology is a lot of these huge clashes between fathers and sons, and cursed households, and these curses being passed down from father to son, and sons killing fathers and marrying mothers and things like that. So there are all these kind of like big family conflicts, which we then kind of brought into the modern domestic space and examined on a kind of like in a modern way, I guess. And I'm glad that you said that it was 13 minutes. It was actually 16 minutes, so that shows that it goes by a bit quicker than it feels shorter than it is, which is good. I think that's a good sign.
These two characters, Gerry, they're quite similar. They're warriors, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose that's what it is. I mean, Christie, who's the character that Cillian plays, I mean, like he had in his fictitious life, he's had a play, it's been a success, and like there's been nothing since. So it's probably, that dilemma of, was I a one-hit wonder, or really am I good enough? And then, coupled with that, he certainly doesn't want to commit to another humdrum, boring life, which he probably perceives the father led all his life. And then there's also this other tension going on because of a sister that existed previously, and the parallels with that. But just when you were saying about the length of the film as well, I mean, one of the things that happened was that the edit on this, the post-production wasn't rushed, not because they were lazy, but possibly because of COVID, and Cillian and Stephen and everyone else involved took the time. So the end of it actually changed, and it worked out better. Like when we shot the indoor scenes the first day, the end of the film is when the two of us go back to the house, but that wasn't used. And the cinematography and the sunshine glistening on the water was so lovely for that final scene with the two lads on the beach that kind of became the end. And then after that, the end is more of a voiceover with Cillian sitting back down and starting to write again without spoiling anything. But, there's a resolution there, which is really nice. And so like taking your time between all the pre-production that went into it and taking a step back every now and again in the post-production, not rushing it and making sure it did work out right with the music, everything else. It turned out to be one of these sort of very complete packages as a short film. Right length of time to tell a story, not dull or boring, plenty of visual imagery, and nothing sort of contrived about it. So I think that's why it's been so well received, really, wherever it's been shown.
I'm glad you said it, Gerry, because I think, and I've been saying it, over the last few interviews, to turn a positive from a negative, that we've seen some brilliant storytelling over the past year. And you're right, Gerry, what's happened is that people have more time to not race their short films. They've taken their time because they had nothing but time, during that lockdown. So we've seen some brilliant screenplays. The post-production has been fantastic. And we've seen filmmakers where they have a tendency to rush to try and get it ready for a film festival, where they drop the ball a little bit. But because the festival circuit was practically closed down for 2 years, there was no major panic. So let's focus on getting the film right rather than racing to try and get it into a particular film festival. And we've seen that right the way across the board. The standard was extremely high this year. It was very difficult for our panel to actually select the nominees because everybody had upped their game, and I think you'll see that going into 2023 as well. There's a lot of projects that had still been worked on during COVID that aren't finished yet, and that's, in a way, that's a good thing because people are taking their time. I can't wait to see what 2023 brings. So, Tommy, are you working on anything now at the moment?
So yeah, I'm currently living in Barcelona in Spain. So we're planning something out here at the moment to shoot in January, which is, it's actually kind of like a horror film. It's like a psychological thriller about this, like a maybe kind of like post-COVID themes as well. It's a woman with agoraphobia who's afraid to leave her flat, and she's like talking to spiders on the walls and things like that. So it's going to be kind of creepy. And then, we'll be releasing Acheron online soon. I think we just had a screening in Madrid last week that was really good. And then we've got a couple more that we're hearing back on. And then I think we'll be releasing it to the world. So that's something to look out for as well if you're interested in the film.
Brilliant. Listen, Tommy, I may come out of retirement as an actor and go to Barcelona if you need me. There's no problem. I'm sure Gerry will as well.
Booking the tickets now.
Gerry, you're the hardest working man in the indie scene at the moment. I lose track of the number of films you're in. You're up there with Aidan O'Sullivan, you know. What like it's going very well for you, Gerry. I mean, all joking aside, you've been in some great shorts, you know, over the past couple of years, and features. I'm sure you're on mainstream as well. So it's going well, Gerry. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier about, you know, following on from my father's great encouragement that I was no use. You know, I only came into acting full time in 2016. So I kind of felt, you know, I had a lot of time to make up for, you know, people who are already my generation in the business were well known. So anything that came up, I said, I can do that. I can do that. And yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have been cast on a lot of good short films. Was one there, Lambing, that I did with Katie McNeice, which is doing very well, for instance. And yeah, that's it. Just keep plugging away. Yeah, I think in the future, you know what you're going to have to do, like probably in the indie circuit thing, you're going to have to come up with a new award for, you know, someone who appears in the most things, and you can call it the Aidan O'Sullivan Award.
Yeah. Well, I have thought about it. And you know what? He's a wonderful guy. You know, he's a brilliant supporter of indie cinema, and you know, he works so hard, and he supports so many people. So we'll see him at the awards. He'll be at the awards. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up now. Listen, it's been great talking to you. I really enjoyed it. Gerry, congratulations on your nomination, because I forgot to mention at the very start, Gerry's been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his role in this film. So congratulations, Gerry. Well done.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Good luck, Gerry.
That's great, Tommy. And thank you, Tommy. Thanks for joining us from Barcelona today.
All right. See you, lads. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.